Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Africa, you know we love the Big C tribe. We love them in Canada, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful September 27, 2018. Big C, what's up?
Charlton, we're doing it as we always do it down here in the South. We got the exclusivity on kickoff of college football. We got North Carolina A&T going on tonight. We got North Carolina and Miami going on tonight. I know you guys got some real frivolous NFL game going on the West Coast, but the real stuff started already down here in the Southeast, Charlton.
Yeah, it's always good. I love this time of year. It's kind of hot in California. I thought fall had already rolled in, but I guess even God wants to watch football, but he likes the heat. God must be from the South, Big C, because it's hot all over this country. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you know, you got those long robes on and everything, and you're trying to get a little air up underneath it. And in the rain that we're getting back here in the South, you become a little drenched, and it's heavy to walk around in.
Yep.
That's why Moses didn't wear many clothes, Charlton. And you know that Noah didn't have anything on during the flood.
Yeah, there's some good old boys that they were digging, discovering. They said they found Noah's Ark, and what was still rolling, Noah's Ark was running Big C Sports from back in the day, but there's some good old boys from Africa that did it first, Big C. I do want to say all is fair in love and war, and this segment is sponsored by your Northern Californian Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. And also, speaking of Cadillac, they get back to Detroit, General Motors. They're leaving New York City, Big C, in the Soho neighborhood. They're going back to Detroit, Motown, because they want to be closer to the design center as they'll roll out several new Cadillac models in the coming years. The one I'm asking them to roll out is the Big C model. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's always been the standard of excellence in America, that big, luxurious car that Cadillac has always produced, Charlton. They downsized a few years ago, Charlton, but they brought back the larger automobiles. The Escalade has always been the flagship for the past couple of decades, Charlton, of that fleet. And, you know, it represents luxury. When you show up, Charlton, and you got an Escalade, it announces itself, Charlton.
Yeah, and it also gets people to say, hey, can I get a ride? They say, yeah, you got 5 on it, Big C. Sometimes they think the Escalade is like a chauffeur, but no, you got to put some gas.
No, you don't see no Escalades out there working no Uber or Lyft account.
No. But people act, when you're driving one, they act like that you're supposed to give them a ride because they don't have one, Big C. But a lot of things are happening in this great country, from football, basketball, baseball. It's almost like that perfect gumbo. If you ever tasted, my grandma used to make this gumbo, and she put all kind of stuff in that gumbo, Big C. She never told us what she put in it, though. But I tell you, it always tasted good, and it's just like this time of year for sports. It all tastes good, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you're putting that, it's a montage of ingredients that go in there.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything. And Grandma, from time to time, I would imagine that she forgot what went in there. Because there'd probably be a few things missing around the house.
Yeah.
But you ate it anyway because you were hungry.
Yeah, you were hungry. And speaking of being hungry, because all's fair in love and war, Christine Blasey testified today. The Kavanaugh hearings, Big C, FBI is involved. Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican, Judiciary Committee. Historical meeting happened today in Washington, D.C. I know the average sports show, they are anathema to peace and liberty and justice for all, so they just want to run down some scores and what's going to happen with basketball. But I think today we just talked about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and we talked about how equality is important, not just for our mothers and grandparents, but for our kids, for any woman that's trying to ascend to anything in life. I gotta just say, in my lifetime, I've never had anything bad happen to me, but I've known people who've had bad things happen to them. At some point in time, you're supposed to let people have their day in court. if they think they're innocent or guilty. Big C, why are they trying to shout down every woman that wants to say to the universe, something happened to me? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the most appalling part about this whole hearing that went on with the Senate today, Charlton, is that there was a judge not asking for an investigation.
Exactly.
And the judge is looking for a lifetime appointee. He was asked by certain senators, all you have to do is turn to the White House counsel, Don McGahn, and say that I would like for the FBI to investigate this.
Yeah.
And I think about a man who's going to have control of millions of lives now, Charlton, with his decisions in America. I think that's totally wrong.
Yep.
Because when we ask for judicial review and things to be investigated, and I don't care how small or large that the case is, you ask for due process, Charlton.
Yep.
And when you deny due process because of the position that you're sitting in, and the people that are going to appoint you think that it's going to help them when it comes to their next Senate race, Charlton,
yeah,
because you put this conservative judge on the Supreme Court. Now, you have to see what he stands for. And we all talk about women's rights in America, Charlton, and women's rights to choose,
yeah,
not be abused, and all these things.
Yeah.
This is one of the stances that this judge has. He says that you can deny women. And that's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, in society of America, Charlton, everybody should have the right to choose as they see their life to go, as long as it's legal.
Yeah.
And he's already taken a stance that he's going to overturn things.
Yeah.
But as a judge, you think about when judges or anybody who's ever been in court, whether it's on a traffic ticket or anything, Charlton.
Yep.
And you sit there and the judge asks for the evidence. That's what they ask for.
Yeah.
For the evidence. And they ask if it's been investigated properly. And here's a judge saying, no, I don't want this investigated.
I know.
And that you can't hold me accountable for things that I did when I was younger.
Yep.
And I look at so many people that have lost their employment, Charlton, in America for things that they did years ago.
Yeah.
Whether it's in Hollywood, whether it's on television, Charlton, whether it's in sports. But here's a judge who holds the decision over other lives in America.
Yeah.
Saying that you don't have the right, and I don't want to be investigated because it may destroy my family.
Yeah. It's almost making a harlequin out of the court system. It's buffoonish to tell. And maybe some women, they just don't understand. I don't want to seem disingenuous or even like I'm trying to speak down to anybody. But when I even see women advocating to appoint someone who wants to usurp their own power, their God-given power to choose what happens to their own bodies, irrespective of Roe v. Wade, what woman doesn't want to have sovereignty over her own body? Let alone the daughter that you may have, or grandchildren, the nieces that you may have. Who wants some old Caucasian man who's been accused of a heinous crime telling you or your daughter or your mother that she has no rights? That means he can do what he wants with impunity. And just because somebody has money and you're afraid you might lose your job, you can't even speak up against that. I've yet to find that woman. And it's amazing how quiet Gloria Allred is, Big C, when she said prosecuting someone who's been accused of that kind of crime was the greatest day of her life. Where's she now, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's amazing when you look at the spectrum of color where she is. She is not there. And you would think that these are elected politicians, Charlton, that's been elected by the American public. The American public has the right to know in a situation like this. And what is the rush? I remember President Obama appointed a Supreme Court justice. They didn't vote on it. They held that appointment off for over 450 days.
They sure did.
Until Obama was out of office, that they would not hold a vote on this. This is a situation that they're rushing to do this appointment because they know that other things are going to come out. This is the reason why they held back 1 million papers from the Democratic part of Congress, so that they wouldn't have a chance to review this because these things were in there, Charlton.
Yeah.
And they know that the guy has a checkered background. But when I look at a judge, and he will not answer simple questions. You know, Bill Clinton was impeached for not answering simple questions.
Yep.
Here's a guy that you're going to put on a lifetime appointment. Bill Clinton didn't have a lifetime appointment. But they said that he didn't answer fairly to Congress. This is the same thing that I've witnessed all over again, Charlton, 20 years later.
Yep.
Is that our system of justice is unjust in America.
Yep.
Is that What's the rush? Here's a guy that's going to have a lifetime appointment. What difference would another 2 months make, another 3 months
None.
make for the FBI to investigate this properly and fully and bring back their findings? But the Senate is saying, the Republican-held Senate,
Yep.
we don't want the FBI involved in this. Why is that? They're elected officials. They should be doing everything that they could so there's never a shadow of a doubt. You know, we talk about in sports where they talk about putting asterisks next to certain records.
Exactly.
Pete Rose, Barry Bonds, players like that.
Yeah.
You know, okay, there needs to be an asterisk. You know, Kevin Durant, because, you know, the team that he went to had already been a champion. Many players have done this.
Yes.
Do you put an asterisk next to every decision if Kavanaugh's appointed, which he will be appointed tomorrow because the Republicans are pushing this through for some reason, Charlton? They're in a hurry. They're in haste about something.
Yeah.
Should there be an asterisk, or should he be recused from every critical decision that decides American life?
Well, I think about it when I think they always want to bring up just, you know, Clarence Thomas, and when he was in his situation being accused of something, they stressed it out a long time, and I think it was Anita Hill, Big C, that they brought that up.
It was Anita Hill. They even brought the FBI in, Charlton, to investigate that.
Yeah.
You know, the FBI got involved. Congress wanted the FBI involved in that. What is the double standard where you don't want the FBI involved in this scenario here with Judge Kavanaugh?
Well, I Googled it, Big C. I learned to use that Google on my phone, and one guy was black, the other guy's white. The black guy, they wanted to string him out and make a caricature of him, a buffoonish of him, and also to put the woman up there to make it look like, look, they can't get along. That's why we don't put them in power. They can't even get along. The one we're trying to get up here in power, look at what's going on. Caucasian men have done that mainstream, and they know they have for years, for centuries, Big C. I just think it's a joke for all the women that say you want the Me Too movement, but you don't.
Charlton, the thing that gets me the most in all of this is that he can remember everything that he did in junior high and high school and college.
Yep.
Think about that. Now, any American out there, you remember every drinking incident that you were involved in when you were in college, when you were in high school. You know verbatim exactly what occurred. This is what this judge said. I'm not doubting that he does, but I question that.
Yes.
I question the sincerity and honesty of that you can remember every time you got inebriated. And you have people writing down that you were inebriated in those days. And now you're coming back saying that they were lying. You knew they were writing it down at that point.
Yeah.
You're talking about drinking to the point of throwing up. And your excuse for that is if you had acid reflux and you couldn't handle anything with tomato base.
Wow.
So if you ate spaghetti and you were throwing up, it made you look like you were drunk.
Yeah.
If you had a hot dog with ketchup on it made you look like you were drunk.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm trying to think of the last time that I was in a bar and they were serving spaghetti. Okay? When I was in college. I'm trying to think of that. It's because I had incidents, Charlton, when I was in college.
Yeah.
And I'm like anybody else. You had times when you consumed too much alcohol.
Yeah.
Not proud of it, but you did. And you know, you were underage drinking.
Being hazed.
You can't tell me that you were of age drinking in all these places. Even as a professional, Charlton, there were times I woke up at home and didn't realize how I got there.
Yeah.
Okay?
I understand.
I woke up and I'm like, hey, I'm at home. The next day, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning.
Well, don't blame it on your grandma for that gumbo she put together. You said sometimes she didn't know what she put in it. Sometimes it's easy to make the kids go to sleep when you put the sedatives in their food, Big C, especially gumbo. But everybody knows at some point in time, I just know as African American, you got to advocate for something. And when I see women in other sports shows, they're not going to do it because they don't care if you're safe. All they care about is when you watch the game. Can you listen to them brag ad nauseum how big, strong, and fast somebody is? And if that's all your brain can absorb, then God bless you. But we always want to keep you constantly aware of different things going on. Big C, I do want to say tonight in the world of the sports universe, Thursday night football, the Vikings with, like you say, your cousin, Kirk Cousins, that good old Viking boy, and he's versus the Rams and Jared Goff, and down in L.A., you know, something about L.A., you have the convergence of highways, you have the 405, you have the I-5, the 10, and there's so many other highways down there in Southern California near downtown. They don't really have a light rail system like you do in San Francisco taking BART, so it's a lot harder to get to games. So I know tonight, you know, tip-off, the stadium wasn't full at first, but it will fill up, Big C, as we get closer to the end. But on a Thursday night, this feels like an NFL playoff atmosphere. I just want to get your sense of it being down south. Does it feel like a playoff atmosphere the way the game would be if it were played in Green Bay, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, one of the things about a playoff atmosphere is that you got to have two playoff teams. Okay?
Yeah.
That's one of the things you got to have.
You like that?
You got one team that's a surefire playoff contender.
Yeah.
You got another team that's a pretender, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because when you look at what your cousin has done,
he's not my cousin.
In Minnesota,
yeah.
I mean, it's like you get rid of three quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You think about the three quarterbacks that you had last year in Minnesota, and you went to the playoffs and you were one game shy of the Super Bowl. Okay.
Yeah.
You had Case Keenum, whose NFL career record as a starter in the NFL, Charlton, is 22-19.
Wow.
You had Teddy Bridgewater. His NFL career starting record is 17-11. Your cousin's career record, Charlton, is 26-30-1. Think about that.
Yeah.
26-30-1. And you give this guy $84 million guaranteed.
Wow.
And then you come back and you look at it 3 games into the season, Charlton. You know, last week they didn't even score a point in the first half.
I know it.
Not a point. He put the ball in the air 55 times, Charlton. 55 times. You think about that.
Yep.
And his receivers, who were the top receiving core in the NFL last year,
yeah,
they have 1 touchdown reception. And you could arguably say that the loss that they had to the Buffalo Bills last week, Charlton, was the largest loss in modern NFL history.
Yeah.
They were 17-point favorites, Charlton.
Yeah.
And they lost by 26 points in the game.
Yeah.
Okay? You think about that. So, you know, you're talking about a 40-point swing in a game. This team technically lost to the bookies by 40 points last week.
Yeah, they said, well, the Supreme Court said you can bet on everything, Big C. But think about the irony of what you just said. The Vikings don't lose because of their defense. Their defense legit. No, they are not the Purple People Eaters from back in the days of Alan Page, Big C. But their last 2 playoff quarterbacks, they shipped them out of town. It's almost like getting rid of your dog that always comes home. And I'm sorry to bring the thing about your dog, Big C. But if you got a dog that comes home every night, and you get rid of them because you think at the dog pound you're gonna find a better dog, but this second dog, it never comes home. But you already shipped out the first dog. Their last 2 quarterbacks prior to Cousins, they were playoff quarterbacks. For the Viking faithful, you got to ask, why are they not here, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you get rid of guys, as you said, they were making the playoffs for a guy that hadn't made the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he hadn't been a winning quarterback in his career, Charlton. That's the thing that you're looking at. You sign a quarterback that was under 500 as a career starter.
Yeah.
And you're saying that this was a franchise quarterback, Charlton. You could have drafted somebody out of college.
Yeah.
That was better than that, but you had 2 guys on your roster from last year that had been playoff quarterbacks, Charlton, and their combined salary would have been half of what you're paying this guy.
Yeah.
And at least they were proven winners. But you brought in this guy who doesn't have a rocket strong arm, Charlton. His arm is no stronger than what Case Keenum's arm was.
Nope, not even half.
As far as being a true leader, I haven't heard him step up once and say, hey, this is on me. This is on my shoulders.
Yeah.
I was brought in here to be the guy to get this team over the hump.
Yeah.
I can't even get them over the rock in the parking lot right now.
Yeah.
You remember? So, I mean, the speed bump is out of the question.
Yeah. Remember?
So,
yeah.
This is what I'm looking at with your cousin, is that he hasn't taken conviction of being a leader, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know how. He didn't win the Big Ten title, Charlton, when he was at Michigan State.
Nope.
He hasn't won the NFC East while he was in Washington, Charlton. And now he's come and took the second best record in the NFL, Charlton, and only has 1 victory for that team this season.
Don't white guys got it good when it comes to sports, Big C? You don't even have to have a winning record to make you the highest paid quarterback. Here's a franchise they had Fran Tarkenton, 4 Super Bowl appearances, Hall of Famer. They had Warren Moon, got them right up to the NFC Championship game. It wasn't his fault that they missed a field goal. And Randall Cunningham, same thing. They've had some great players there, from Randy Moss to Chris Carter. And man, Chuck Foreman, that good old boy, number 44 from back in the day. they've had so many great players from with the Carl Eller, just a lot of great players that they've had in that organization. And the Bud Grant, who led that great 4 Super Bowl appearances. But they used to get highly acclaimed when they won. Remember when Cleveland won the NBA championship and LeBron James said, "Cleveland, this is for you." You would expect Kirk Cousins to say, "Minnesota, this one's on me." Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that's what he's doing, Jonathan. This is for you. I mean, at the pace they're going, they might get 4 wins.
Yeah.
At the pace, because right now they're trying to blame everybody else. They say, well, the defense hasn't been playing up to, standard.
Yeah.
Well, if you keep fumbling the ball in the red zone and throwing interceptions, Jonathan, it's hard for the defense to play up to the level that they did when a team had to cover the entire field last year.
Yeah.
Because your offense would always put them back in bad field position.
Yep.
You don't have an offense that's doing that right now, Charlton. And really, the lineup is basically the same except for the quarterback.
Yeah.
When you look at the Vikings on offense, they're trying to find excuses. When you give a guy $84 million, you don't start looking at other people and say that they're not performing.
Exactly.
Because you're saying that they weren't worth that kind of money, but he was.
Right.
This goes back to all your buddies out there talking about you got to have a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
That's the guy that you got to have. You got to have a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
What is a franchise quarterback, Dawson? Because the last I checked, in the last 10 years, how many of these guys have won Super Bowls? How many of these guys are active in the NFL, Charlton? You don't have 5 of them.
No.
You don't have 5 franchise quarterbacks active in the NFL that have won Super Bowls.
Yeah.
In the last 10 years. So let's be realistic about, you got to have the guy that looks like you and this eugenic look as an owner.
Yeah.
Because I will pay him. And if there's a problem, I won't blame him. Think about what Dak Prescott is going through in Dallas.
Yeah.
Look at how the media is beating him up. Does he have the weapons that a Kirk Cousins has?
Nope.
Does he have 2 all-pro receivers, Charlton?
Nope.
Does he have an all-pro tight end?
Nope.
He has a running back. That's it. He doesn't have guys on the perimeter that he can get the ball to that will change the game.
Yeah.
But everybody's saying, well, he's declined. No one is saying that Kirk Cousins has declined. You think about this, Charlton. You throw the ball 55 times in an NFL game.
Ouch.
Well, if you're Drew Brees, you do that all the time.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But when you throw it 55 times in an NFL game, Charlton, that should equal at least 400 yards in passing.
And at least 4 touchdowns.
Patrick doesn't throw the ball 55 times to get 400 yards, okay?
Yeah.
Drew Brees doesn't throw the ball 55 times to get 400 yards. But you got 55 passes, Charlton, and you don't even get 300 yards in completion.
No.
So that lets me know that you're not understanding this game now, Charlton. That's what it lets me know. You have declined. Let Dak Prescott throw the ball 55 times and see if Dallas wins the game.
Well,
let Russell Wilson throw it 55 times and see if Seattle wins the game. Let Deshaun Watson throw it 55 times and see if they win the game. And you know if Brady throws it 55 times, he's going to win.
Yeah.
You know that. And if Drew Brees throws it 55 times, Charlton, you got to take a time out just for your eyes to rest.
Yeah, that's true. But all's fair in love and war. And all we say is Google it, because there's a lot of quarterbacks that get heavily maligned, and they're not making nearly the money that Kirk Cousins is making. But there's a certain skin complexion they will protect, and they'll make you look like that broadcaster told me, Hall of Famer. The job of our job, Charlton, is to make sure that we tell people that what they saw with their own eyes they did not see. Speaking of that, I think the Rams get the win tonight. The Panthers signed free agent Eric Reed. The SOB, Courtney POTUS. I had to want to make sure they put that in there. They hired the SOB. So maybe there's a referendum on not hiring SOBs, Big C, because they hired Eric Reed, who stood hand in hand with Colin Kaepernick, former 49er, who was the first player to join Colin Kaepernick, taking a knee for social equality. So women could have the right to choose, so that women would not be battered by their spouses or boyfriends, and so that women who came forward when they were accusing a man of some type of assault, that they didn't get told to shut up and you're lying, we're going to sue you. That's what he took a stand for. But mainstream said, oh, it's anti-military, because they lied. You got hoodwinked. At some point, that has to hit home, Big C. Eric Reed getting a job doesn't mean Cap's going to get one, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, Eric Reed was the only defensive back that in the last 5 years that was drafted in the first round that didn't have a job, that wasn't knocked out of the league because of an injury. You think about that. He was a first-round draft pick, and he didn't have a job. But also, when you look at Eric Reid, Charlton, he can walk down the street in any city of America and nobody will know who he is.
Yep.
So it's a double-edged sword when you look at it. I mean, Eric Reid, yes, he was the first player to take a stance alongside Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
But if he walks into downtown Chicago, would anybody know who he is, Charlton?
Probably not.
If he walked into the Coliseum tonight, nobody would know who he is. Or any other NFL city, Charlton, if he walked down Main Street in any other NFL city, no one would know who Eric Reid is. But that's a different story when it comes to Colin Kaepernick, Charlton. Everybody in America knows who Colin Kaepernick is.
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons why Eric Reid was signed, the Panthers have a new owner who wasn't part of the Good Old Boys Network at the time when that took place.
Yep.
Okay? But Jerry Richardson's statue is still up in front of the stadium in Carolina. Here's a guy who committed sexual assault against employees, Charles.
Yep.
And his statue, the NFL allowed his statue to stay up there and be a referendum for sexual assault against women.
Yeah.
You think about that. They didn't cover it up. They didn't box it in. It still stands in front of the stadium.
Yep.
With his arms out. So when you think about that, but also, you know, Eric Reid will still be a part of this suit this antitrust suit, collusion suit against the NFL going forward. That doesn't eliminate him from the suit. But you also got to look at this, Charlton.
Yep.
The NFL is trying to avoid its dirty laundry, okay?
Yeah.
It's trying to avoid opening its books. That's what it's trying to do. It doesn't want the world to know the business that they run. You know, everybody saw the movie Godfather.
Yeah.
Okay? When Sonny told Kate, don't ever ask me about my business.
Yeah.
Don't ever ask me about what I do.
Yep.
If you want to know what the NFL is like in collusion and the business that they run, look at the movie Godfather.
Yeah.
When he told Kate, don't ever ask me about my business at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
You know, that's what the NFL is. And so the NFL will do anything to protect their business. This goes back to the late Thomas Benson, Charlton, owner of the Saints and the Pelicans in New Orleans. When he was in a lawsuit with his family, Charlton,
Yeah.
over money, he'd rather settle this lawsuit out of court with his NFL buddies other than opening up the financial records of the NFL because everyone is exposed, Charlton.
That's a good
There's
point.
an equal partnership. And so instead of opening that up, Charlton, he's going to, we just pay him. We'll all chip in. We'll pay your family. Quiet them up.
Yeah.
Because this is something we can't have. So I'm looking, Mark Garrigo said a couple teams was talking to Colin Kaepernick. That's his attorney. That's his counsel.
Yeah.
But they signed Eric Reid. That's the easy signing, Charlton. You can sign Eric Reid. You'll test the water. It's just like Nike did with the Colin Kaepernick commercial, Charlton.
Yeah.
They tested the water. They hit a grand slam, okay?
Yep.
That's what they did. They hit a grand slam for today and even for the future marketing.
Yep.
Is what they did. But you also got to understand, who is Nike in partnership, Charlton? Who are they in partnership with?
The NFL.
NFL. Look at the jerseys. Look on the on the shoulder pads of all the jerseys, Charlton, around the neck.
Yeah.
There's a little Nike emblem.
Yep.
Look at the shoes that they wear, Charlton. There's a little Nike emblem. So you think that Nike was not aware of the NFL was not aware what Nike was doing with Colin Kaepernick?
Oh, they know.
They weren't blindsided about that, Charlton. They wanted Nike to test the water.
Yeah.
That's what they wanted Nike to do. Get the temperature, get the pulse of America on how they feel by putting him as the face of your company, of your advertising.
Yeah.
That's what they wanted to do. And they saw that Nike has now risen. They said, okay, they had a one-day hit. That's the stock market. That happens all the time. I mean, somebody walks out the room, they lose several $1 million. All right?
Yep, Gordon Gekko.
That
Yep.
happens in the stock market.
Yeah.
But what Nike and the NFL did was test the temperature of America with that advertiser, Colin Kaepernick. It's still running. So let's sign Eric Reid. Let's see if there's any backlash, any media upheaval over Eric Reid being signed because he took a stance with Colin Kaepernick every game.
Yeah.
This will go under the bridge, Charlton.
Well,
Now the door is open. The NFL can say, okay, we don't have collusion.
Yeah.
We can ease him back in. Quarterbacks are getting hurt already, Charlton.
Yeah.
We've seen Garoppolo go down in San Francisco. Charlton, in the next 3 weeks, there'll be 3 or 4 more quarterbacks go down.
Unfortunately.
Colin Kaepernick is sitting there, okay?
Yeah.
He's sitting there. The temperature is right now to bring him back into the fold.
Well, the thing about this great country of ours, and you were telling me just that story the other day, and I think I had a call. They did clean up that puke that you had when you puked in the Eiffel Tower, Big C. So you're still welcome back. They got some great stuff they clean. unfortunately, a lot of the pigeons complained that they were cleaning it up for free. Okay, so they thought they were going to get paid when they said they could clean up the pigeon, they could clean up the Eiffel Tower. If you ever go to a ball game over in San Francisco, AT&T Park, those same pigeons that clean up Big C's Puke Big C, they do free work also at AT&T over in San Francisco. But I got to bring this thought up because I believe that everybody, at least most people, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm ignorant for even saying it, I think most people want liberty and justice for all. I think that's reasonable to conclude that every American wants liberty and justice for all. But when I look at what's happening in Washington today, where women are still being demonized the way African Americans have been demonized when they say something's happened to me. They've been shouted down and told, no, you're a lion. You must have an ulterior motive. You're clandestine. Something's going on. Now, you got to believe the man, especially the mainstream Caucasian male. And the court says, due process, you know, you can petition for what facts do you have. It's called disclosure. You can petition for that. And I hope that women stand strong and quit just being railroaded because somebody has more money and power than you, Big C. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry for every athletic and sporting event. You need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, or your high school team, and your mom and papa soccer leagues, when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you. Something that I brought to your consciousness and you brought it to mine. We kind of go back and forth with it. I know you read a lot more than I do. I tend to pray more and you tend to read more. And I'm starting to think that, well, even when I pray, I'm reading, so I guess I'm almost on your same level, Big C. I'm just not clairvoyant yet. But with all the sportscasters, they're saying that sports and politics do not mix because they're ignorant. Well, the mayor of Pittsburgh says that the Le'Veon Bell situation has reached a tipping point, Malcolm Gladwell, and that with the Steelers, because politics once again is reaching into sports. There's no, if sports and politics don't mix, why they talk about it then? That's like saying moonshine and the glass don't mix, Big C. You can't have one without the other, Big C, unless you sip it from the water hose, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you know, it's always amazing, and you've constantly brought that up. And the politicians, every time we turn around, there's a politician dipping in the sports show.
Yep.
And we're talking about the mayor of Pittsburgh, who's stepping over the head coach, Mike Tomlin, saying that Mike Tomlin hasn't said this reached the tipping point.
Nope.
The Rooney's haven't said this reached the tipping point, Charlton.
No.
But the mayor of the city is frustrated because of the lack of progress in having Le'Veon Bell on the roster.
Yeah.
He's saying, you know, we got to do something about this. Because I'm worried about our team not being as productive as they always have. He looks there and he looks at the statistics.
Yeah.
He understood that first game was a fluke at running back.
Yeah.
And he's seen how the offense has declined in the last two games, Charlton. They were lucky to win in Tampa.
Yeah.
They didn't dominate Tampa. They were lucky to come out with a victory.
Yeah.
That's what happened in that game, Charlton. And so here you're looking at this scenario,
yeah,
and he recognizes that. He's in charge of a city that's been a winner with the Pittsburgh Penguins, Charlton, with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he knows his sports, Charlton.
Yep.
And he said a tipping point. What does a tipping point mean to the mainstay of America, Charlton? Is that we've tolerated all we can.
Yeah.
We've pushed the envelope. It's time for somebody to go into the outhouse or get off the pot. Okay? That's what you got to do. And so he's frustrated with this whole matter because he's a fan.
Yep.
And he wants to see his team being the best that they can be with the best players.
Yeah.
But you know, you right now have inner turmoil. I can't say that Le'Veon Bell really wants to play for the Steelers because they told him we don't want you after this year.
Yeah.
But we want you to come in and make us better. But we don't want you after the year. I like what a former teammate of his said, Charlton, James Harrison.
Yeah.
And you know, he said, go in, check in, fake an injury. A lot of players have faked injuries, Charlton, over the years. I let some teammates do the same thing, fake an injury.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to play, they didn't want to get hit.
Yep.
They wanted to get paid, though.
Yep.
I mean, in all injuries, you can't determine, Charlton.
Right.
I used to go to training camp, you know, say, I pulled a hamstring.
Yeah.
Pulled a groin.
Yep.
You couldn't tell whether it was healthy or not. So they didn't want to practice.
Yeah.
And so
yep.
Here's politics overstepping its bounds, as they say, but be also being a partner with professional sports, Charles.
Yeah, I think everything's good about discussing. And again, as a person of color, I believe that we should always advocate for everybody, right and wrong, just at least if you can discuss it. And like my parents always say, listen to the other person's side of the story. Don't just assume that somebody has nefarious motives. Listen to their side of the story, and maybe you can adjust how you think. I think Zig Ziglar used to say we need to check up from the neck up. I think they had a lot of wisdom, Big C. So when the media is talking about evaluating athletes, regardless of their sport, I think it's more about likability than ability. And there's a preconception that mainstream would rather see someone that looks like them than someone who doesn't look like them. But I think the NBA has proved that wrong. They seem to be the more popular sport, at least approaching it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, you can look at your cousin when you talk about likability.
I like my cousins.
You want to give him $84 million.
Yeah.
They're fighting over it.
Yeah.
But they still like him, and he's not winning.
Yeah.
But, you brought up the NBA. Look at the beat down that Kevin Durant has taken, Charleston, since he's been in Golden State. He's taking the easy way out.
Yep.
He went to a team that had already won a championship. But no one in the media, Charleston, has counted up the number of players that had gone to teams that had already won a championship, okay?
Yeah.
Whether they had won it the year before or won it within that decade and still had players on the roster.
Look at Steve Young.
Steve Young did it, Charleston. He went to a team that, look at the Lakers, after Showtime.
Yeah.
And even during Showtime, everybody they brought in came to a team that had won a championship.
Yep.
Celtics have been the same way, Charleston. They went to teams that brought in players that had won championships. Baseball does it all the time. When teams make trades late in baseball, they bring in players to help them win a championship.
Yeah.
But when you look at how players are beat down, Charleston, as far as going to a better organization, you look at LeBron James. Everybody said, well, look at him. Look at the beat down he's taking. He's been the best player in basketball for over a decade.
Oh, yeah.
And he's getting beat down from the media because I've done my time in 2 other cities. I want to go to another city and continue my life after the game.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant never gets the accolades since he's gone to Golden State, other than Finals MVP. That's all they'll give him, Charles.
Yep.
They don't give him all NBA on nothing. But you look at him statistically. That's the media. You look at Terrell Owens. Took him 3 ballots to get into the Hall of Fame, Charles, and he was the first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Number 3 all-time leading receiver in the history of the game. Took him 3 votes to get into the Hall of Fame, Charles, and this has happened with many other players. I go back to Charlie Taylor. Not Charlie Taylor, Art Monk of the Washington Redskins.
Yep.
It took him 19 years to get into the Hall of Fame, Charles, because he wouldn't talk to the media.
Wow.
He was pro football's all-time leading receiver when he retired from the Washington Redskins.
Yeah.
So when you sit here and say it's about the game, Charleston, it's not about the game. It's about the game to the players.
Yep.
To the media, it's about who's accessible to me. Who can I make my money off of? Who can I make my bones off of to make an easy story?
Yeah, I think that's true.
You look at Bill Belichick. When was the last time he won a popularity contest?
About 30 years ago.
Nobody qualified for the playoffs yet. But when it comes to a black coach, remember the late Dennis Green, how he used to get beat up by the media.
Yep.
In a press conference. They rode him like a broke-down racehorse.
Yeah.
Belichick said, hey, we just played a game.
Yeah.
But, they don't give him a hard time, Charles.
Yeah.
But you look at the minority coaches that have always been in the game. When you look at Jim Caldwell, who just got fired from Detroit last year,
for winning,
he beat the man down for having a winning record.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind right now to John Gruden because he was part of the media.
Yep.
Everybody's kind to him.
Yeah.
He's 0-3, can't win, might be 0-4, and everybody's kind. Well, he doesn't have an offensive line. He doesn't have a pass rush.
Yeah.
The defensive backs are not covering anybody. The running game is not intact.
Right.
But John Gruden's fine.
I think that's funny. When you think about it, too, the Cleveland Browns, they come to the Raiders, and they're playing this game at the Coliseum. It's the dog pound versus the black hole. And you think about this talk of Baker Mayfield, maybe he has revitalized the Cleveland sports fans. Maybe they have that new swag that they want to see. Sometimes it's just like anything else. You want to see something new, even if what you had was better. Sometimes you want to see something new. That's just the way human beings are. But Baker Mayfield coming into the Coliseum, this is a game the Raiders should win. I mean, if they don't win this game, what's the excuse? Cleveland could go on a 2-game winning streak against a $100 million coach, and even right now, before this game happens, win or lose, there's already talking saying that the Raiders, they're looking for next year. Like, we just started. What are you talking about looking for next year? They're already trying to lay the foundation, if Cleveland wins this game, that maybe the Raiders are looking for next year, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, if they're looking for next year, why don't they just pay the players and tell them to go home and forfeit the rest of the season?
Yeah.
I mean, once again, that's about likability. Remember we said that?
Yep.
How the media has pacified John Gruden because he was one of the media.
Yep.
And, you got to find excuses other than him.
Yeah.
Now, you think about if Baker Mayfield wins this game, Charlton, he'll be only the second number one, well, he'll be the only second number one overall draft pick to win a game at quarterback, Charlton, since 2002.
Wow.
And that was Derek Carr, when the Houston Texans beat the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
So when Baker Mayfield came into the game last week, Charlton, against the Jets, what was he playing with? House money.
House money.
There was no pressure.
No.
He didn't have no pressure. I mean, there was not a person in the media that said, well, he's under all kind of pressure. He's the number one overall draft pick, Charlton. He really has to show well now. Otherwise, all the doubters and naysayers will come out and say, we told you not to take him and take Darnold because the Jets are up in this game.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
He just threw passes. That's it. He didn't care. And so there wasn't any caution. He threw caution into the wind. Now he starts this game against the Raiders, Charlton. I mean, it's a perfect storm for a team that you want to start a quarterback with.
Yeah.
Because you got a team that hasn't won and hasn't showed any ability to win thus far in this season, Charlton.
Yep.
Coming off a couple of tough losses.
Yeah.
So this is a scenario because the Raiders don't have a pass rush.
Yeah.
It could be a perfect storm for Baker Mayfield.
Well,
but also, you look at it from this perspective. If he loses to a team without a pass rush, Charlton, did they make the right decision by holding him back the first 2 games?
Well, that's a very good point, too, Big C. I think when you look at Bay Area, there's a lot going on in Bay Area media. And we talked about the great, the Big D Drysdale, the late Don Drysdale for the Dodgers yesterday. Played 13 seasons with the Dodgers, a Cy Young Award winner, 9-time MVP player, actually all-star player with the LA Dodgers. I go up north on I-5. So on this date 30 years ago, the great Mark McGwire hit what was then his 70th home run of the season, which at that time was a major league record. That means that at that time on this date, 30 years ago, when he hit number 70 in one season, that was the most home runs hit in the universe. And Mark McGwire did that, Big C. He also had maybe what some people say that asterisk. He had a great friend named Jose Canseco, who spilled the beans on a lot of people. Jose told the truth, like Colin Kaepernick. Them good old boys ostracized him. He's not blonde hair with blue eyes, so he didn't get away with being truthful. A lot of guys cannot tell the truth in mainstream like Gruden. They might make a story. They seem like it's somebody else's fault, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, you think about that great home run season that Mark McGwire hit the 70 home runs in, Charlton. And he was in a great home run race with Sammy Sosa, who finished that season with 66.
Yep.
But at that time, Charlton, when he hit that 70th home run, a feat that no one thought would ever be accomplished in Major League Baseball. But, he didn't run around with that stigma over his back like Barry Bonds did while he was hitting the home runs, Charlton.
Exactly.
Everybody thought Mark McGwire was clean, even though he had gained some 80 to 100 pounds from the time his rookie season was to the time he had hit that 70 home run season, Charlton.
Yeah.
No one was doubting his ability. It was just he was a great player. No one said he had a cork bat. No one said he had gained an excessive amount of weight over 10 years, and it was all muscle.
No, I know.
But it's what the media wants to make of you. Just like I said earlier, it's the image that they wanted to portray. As long as the guy hitting the home runs and breaking the records was looking like them,
yeah,
it was fine.
Yeah.
The minute the guy that broke the guy's record that looked like them was no longer around, we got to change our attitude and how we approach this. You think about when Hank Aaron was on the run to break Babe Ruth's all-time record.
Yeah.
The threats that he got, the jovial that he got, the jokes that came out from the media, the snide, color remarks that they made about him.
Yep.
That happened all the time. Go back and look at any of the news clips and reels of games and look at what some of the announcers were saying about Hank Aaron.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he breaks the record, and it was an uneasiness in America.
You know what?
You broke the hollow ground.
You know what? Yeah.
When McGwire did what he did, Charlton, it was fine. Everybody knew he was juiced. He had it on top of his locker and showed it. Go back. It's there.
I know.
He shows him with the stuff on top of his locker. And they didn't say anything about it. The media didn't eat that up.
No.
But Barry Bonds, that is still following him today. No one mentions Mark McGwire, Charlton, when it comes to that.
Well, and for people that follow Big C Sports all over the universe, you think about this, what I'm going to say, and it's chilling, and it goes back to the stance that Colin Kaepernick made. When African Americans, we talked about the treatment of African Americans across the pond and in Europe, how they're treated with more affinity and more egalitarian than even here in the land of the free and the home of the brave. There oftentimes, when African Americans were going to break a record, whether it's Jesse Owens from back in the day in the Berlin Olympics, to even Colin Kaepernick still holds the record today for the most yards rushed for and passed in a single playoff game in the NFL. That's Kaepernick. Most black men that have broken records, they have faced death threats. And nobody told the people who were coward enough to do that to get the blank out of the country. No one called them SOBs. They just said, well, that's unfortunate, take the high road. Even Jackie Robinson was told, well, don't defend yourself. Just let the good old boys have at you because we don't want to point the finger at mainstream. Big C, that's egregious. Does that make any sense?
Well, Charlton, that's fact. It's not egregious, it's fact. Sometimes when you look in the mirror and you see what you see, it is true. And this has happened, Charlton, with many minority athletes, regardless of what accolades or records that they have chased. Mainstream has always come back to them with vitriol, Charlton.
Yeah.
You can't do that. That belongs to us. That's ours. You think about the fight over the decades, Charlton, to keep minorities out of mainstream sports.
Yeah.
Because of that, because they knew that they would come in and dominate. And ever since they've been in these games, Charlton, we talked about Kurt Gibson, we were talking about baseball and the Cy Young Award.
Yeah.
How they lowered the mound because they said he had an unfair advantage. He's pitching on the same mound, Charlton, that every right pitcher in the major league was pitching on.
Yeah.
But he had an unfair advantage because he had an ERA of 1.12.
Yeah.
So it gave him an unfair advantage.
Yep.
Barry Bonds, they said, well, he had to be juicing to hit that many home runs. Oh, McGwire was clean when he hit 7. Okay? So he was clean. He gained 100 pounds. Look how big Barry Bonds is now. He didn't gain 100 pounds in his career, Charlton.
Yeah.
He didn't do that.
No, McGwire was bigger than Barry.
Not just home runs, he hit for average.
Yeah.
So when you think about what they've done, Ricky Henderson, they were trying to figure out how the hell he kept stealing all these bases. There's got to be something wrong. Somebody got to be stealing the singles. He can't do that, man.
People would call it 911. They would call it 911. Ricky Henderson stole so many bases. Somebody stole the bases in Coliseum.
And so, even in football, when we look at what has been done in football, Charlton, you look at the records that minority players have set in the NFL.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's not real. I mean, you go back to Randall Cunningham. Here's a guy who set a single-season passing record while he was with the Vikings. One kick short of going to the Super Bowl. Never played in the NFL again, Charles.
Isn't that something?
They're the highest scoring team in the NFL when he was with the Vikings.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins will never equal that year that Randall Cunningham had with the Minnesota Vikings when they lost to the Falcons in the NFC Championship.
Well, hold on.
Dante Culpepper, he will never eclipse Dante Culpepper's best season when he had Randy Moss and Chris Carter, Charles. So when you think about those things, Doug Williams wins the Super Bowl. Never got another snap in the NFL. So when you think about what some black NFL quarterbacks have done, Charlton, and because the media didn't like them,
yep,
they never got a job again, Charlton.
And I think that's worth repeating because people may say, well, Big C, you guys are always, telling people Google it. Can't you just, why you guys always want to talk about the facts? Can't you just enjoy what we tell you we want you to think about? But I think what you said is worth repeating because, we're doing our global expansion to China and Big C Sports. I want you to say that one more time because we have guys like Kirk Cousins, $84 million, Garoppolo, $137 million. Ryan, what he get, $180 million, something like that, Big C? And there's so much money for guys that never won a championship. time and time again. But you look at a lot of the African-American men who've been blackballed from the quarterback position, whether it's Doug Williams, who set records in the Super Bowl, the biggest sporting event in the universe, the Super Bowl. But he did that on a world stage, and it cost him his job by setting the record. Same thing with Kaepernick, made a lot of mainstream quarterbacks look bad because he was too talented. You talked about how Randall Cunningham was doing his thing, setting records, and it cost him his job. So sometimes, and I want mainstream to Google it because you're not going to hear this on the other networks. Remember, they want you to believe not your eyes, but they want you to believe what they tell you. All we say is Google it. I think it's worth repeating, Big C. When black excellence shows up, it oftentimes will cost them a job, Big C. Your thoughts?
It has done that over the decades, Charlton, and everyone knows that. I mean, it's not limited to one sport, Charlton. It's across the ledger. I mean, baseball. We looked at that in baseball for decades. I mean, when you wonder how free agency came about in baseball, why baseball players have guaranteed contracts now, why they're allowed to go from team to team, Charlton, and seek out the best money available. It happened because of a black player, Charlton, Kurt Floyd.
Yep.
And he was banned from baseball. He had played 11 years in the major leagues with the Cardinals. He was a teammate of Bob Gibson.
Yep.
He was a 10-time All-Star in 11 years. And they said he couldn't play anymore because he challenged the owners for freedom. He wanted the plantation broken. He wanted to be able to move off the plantation and change his neighborhood if he felt like it.
Yep.
They banned him. When we look at all these early entry guys into the NBA, Charlton, the one and done, and even when the high school players were allowed to come in, it was done by another black player, Charlton, Spencer Haywood. You know, and they held him out of the NBA for a year.
Yeah.
They would not allow him to be in the NBA, Charlton. They made him wait. So when you think about the road that has been traveled by many minority athletes in America, Charlton,
Yeah.
that others ride the back of now. Not just minority players, but even more so the white players, Charlton, because they paved the way for them also.
Yeah.
They were the trailblazers, just like in society, Charlton, when we talk about civil rights and equal rights in America.
The vanguards.
The trailblazers have been black Americans. They've been the vanguard in that, Charlton.
Yeah.
And people say, well, you know, it really doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter, then why did they have to fight for it?
Well, that's
why
very true.
Just giving freely. It's
Yeah.
the right to vote. You see here in America, why did they have to fight for the right to vote, Charlton?
Yeah.
Why did they have to fight for the right to play sports? Why did they have to fight for the right for equal education? So when you think about that, Charlton, when you never had to fight for anything in your life, whether it's socially, academically, or athletically, Charlton, that means that you're white.
Yeah.
It honestly does. That's not being racist. That's
Google
just
it.
what it is.
I think so.
Just Google it.
Google it.
Open a book like I do all the time. Turn on your computer, whatever.
Yeah.
Look at where minorities stood in this country 50 years ago, and what did they have the right to do?
That's true. That's why we've always been told, if you go to a doctor, anybody, anywhere in the United States, in fact, anywhere in the universe, if you go to a doctor, do you want the doctor to tell you the truth, or do you want him to lie to you and make you feel good? I think even dumb people want to be told the truth. That's why we say Google it. And when I say that Big C Sports is the #1 sports show in the universe, I'm not just grandstanding, and I'm not trying to be a maven. I'm just saying, where can you go where you have two African-American men that are doing it freestyle? We're doing it extemporaneous. We don't have a producer in our ear saying, turn left, turn right, speed up, slow down. We don't have that. We speak from the heart. And sometimes we may get it wrong, but if we do, Google it and find out. I challenge every broadcaster to do that. Turn off the teleprompter, put down the notes, and speak from the heart. I had a pastor, Big C. He still asked me about the tithe. He said, Charlton, you keep talking about the #1 sports show in the universe. How come you're not #1 in tithe at the church? I said, wait a minute. I'm always trying to block his calls sometimes, Big C. But I think it's so true. We want to leave a legacy. That legacy is left whether you believe it or not, where people can fact check it. And you fact check it by telling people to fact check you now. Don't wait until 5 years where they forget about it. I think that's important, Big C. The Chicago Cubs and the Milwaukee Brewers both clinched a playoff spot last night. Big C, it was in dramatic fashion. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at that Chicago win last night, it was reminiscent of a game when you had the Bartman incident, Charlton.
Yeah.
Where a ball was fouled into the seats, and the player, Alou thought he had the catch. All
Yeah.
of a sudden,
Moses
the
Alou.
ball was gone. Bartman had it. That
Yeah.
same scenario happened last night, Charlton.
Wow.
On the other side of the dugout, where the first baseman went in.
Yeah.
He thought he had the ball and a fan had it. And the game was tied at that point, Charlton. It almost cost Chicago that game, but fortunately they pulled it out and qualified for the playoffs. But I beg to think what would have happened to that fan, Charlton,
Yeah.
if Chicago had lost that game.
Yeah.
Would have been another Steve Bartman incident.
Yeah, and we hope that obviously people are going to go around and they're going to enjoy everything that they do, but make sure you try to at least let the athletes play. I also want to touch on a few things in the world of college sport. The big game coming up, there's a couple of big games coming up this weekend. I look at Stanford at Notre Dame. Bryce Love is only, I mean, you think about a 100-yard game last season that he did not have was allowed against Notre Dame. I just want to get your thoughts. He hasn't really been that healthy. I think he's finding his groove, but Stanford got lucky at Oregon. But I think they may be a better team than Notre Dame because they're battle tested. And the fact that Notre Dame had to travel when they went to Wake Forest, Stanford had to travel up to Oregon. They both have to get on planes to get back to South Bend. I think no matter who wins this game, this is set up for a great marquee matchup. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Stanford has more of a pass blocking line this year, Charlton. They do have a run blocking line. When you think about what Bryce Love did, Charlton, with over 20 runs last year in excess of 50 yards, he only has one run this year, Charlton, in excess of 50 yards. He only has one 100-yard game. Notre Dame's defense has only allowed one 100-yard rushing game, Charlton.
Yeah.
So something has to give in this factor, Charlton. One of these records will stay intact.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is a game that this game can eliminate one of these teams from the playoffs, Charlton. You're not going to lose if you're Stanford and make the playoffs because no one looks at the West Coast when it comes to media.
Yeah.
By the time they play their games, Charlton, I know I'm in bed. The rest of the media is also.
You already sleep.
And Notre Dame, I mean, they got a little holy water there in South Bend, so they always receive a prayer.
Yeah. Touchdown Jesus, Revelation chapter 1, verses 14 and 15 verses Daniel chapter 7, verse 9 and 10 and 6. Christ had skin the color of lamb's wool. I'm sure they'll always be playing but skin the color of brass, the hair like lamb's wool, Big C. But the big game also, the winner of Ohio State, Penn State. It's almost unfair that we only have 4 teams that make the playoffs because these 2 teams have the talent to be in, but you know they both won't get invited. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you know, you talk about the 4 teams. There's a Power 5 conference when they talk about making the playoffs.
Yep.
I always have thought that the number 4 team and the number 5 team, Charlton, in the playoffs should have a one-game playoff, and they would just be automatically become the 4th seed, regardless of who it is.
Yeah.
I think that would be fair, is that you have that one playoff game, Charlton, just like in baseball. That's going to create more excitement as far as the playoffs. They talk about expanding it to 8.
Yeah.
Might be a little too much, Charlton, but if you have that one playoff game that the 4th and 5th ranked team, Charlton, play to see who's going to play the number 2 team in the country, Charlton, I think that would be fair for everybody.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
When we look at this Penn State-Ohio State game this weekend, Charlton, in Happy Valley, the first whiteout without a snow game in college football this season, Charlton.
Yep.
105,000 strong in Penn State. Just great atmosphere for college football, Charlton.
Yeah.
But you look at this game, and the last 2 winners of this game, Charlton, have gone on to win the Big Ten title. But you also look at this game going in, everybody looks at Ohio State as a favorite.
Yeah.
Penn State is the highest scoring team in the country, Charlton, in the Power 5 conferences.
Yeah.
They even average more points a game than what Alabama does.
Yep.
But I look at what Ohio State has offensively. You got a quarterback in Haskins who is averaging about 120 more yards a game passing than the quarterback at Penn State.
Yeah.
Penn State, to win this game, Charlton, has to score at least 35 to 40 points to beat Ohio State. I don't think that they're going to hang 57 points on Ohio State, but they're going to have to score at least 45, 50 points, or 35 to 40 points to beat Ohio State this game. But Ohio State has a tremendous defense, Charlton, and a very high-powered offense.
Yeah, well, they're a better team than TCU, so Ohio State has their work cut out for them. North Carolina will be at number 16, Miami, tonight. This is not the U from back in the day. It's a good test for Miami. They got to win this game. But North Carolina also, they came out to Cal Berkeley and got beat by the Golden Bears. So it might be a win for Miami. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, North Carolina is struggling. This is a program that's going on a little downward slide. I mean, they're coached during the offseason, Charlton. made some statements out there in the media that everybody was wondering whether he had a grasp of the team or not.
Yeah.
But you know, when you look at what Mark Richt has done since returning to his alma mater down in Miami, Charlton, he's turned this program around, and he's having a change at quarterback tonight, Charlton. Malik Rozier will not be starting for Miami tonight at quarterback, Charlton. You think about the young quarterback. He was 14-4 as a starter.
Yeah.
But they're replacing him, Charlton, trying to kickstart that offense. And if they do that, it's going to be a long night for North Carolina.
Yeah, they got to fight hard in Big C. Speaking of fighting, HBO today has said goodbye to boxing, so there's no longer enough interest in it for them to carry the sport. But on the flip side of that, Al Heyman signed a 6-year deal with Fox Sports, and Bob Arum signed a 7-year deal with ESPN. I would say that boxing's still in a good shape. It's just a matter of who's going to show it. But MMA really has come up, and they've challenged it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, when you think about boxing and the relationship, Charlton, that they had with HBO, that was a 25-year relationship. You know, everybody who was who in boxing over the first 20 years of that, Charlton, appeared on HBO, whether it's pay-per-view or not. HBO controlled that. They made it an event, Charlton, a must-see event.
Yeah.
Just like the MMA now that is, Charlton. They promoted the fight. They had the boxers. They had the events, all of that. And, you know, when it lost its steam to the MMA, HBO saw that the property wasn't what it once was.
Yeah.
I mean, you can always go sign with somebody else, Charlton.
Yeah.
But when you're not bringing anything special to the table, that's the biggest deal that you're looking at right now with this situation.
Yeah.
What does boxing have that's going to make people, and the MMA is also, Charlton, on Fox. They carry it all the time.
Yep.
What is going to make people stop watching the MMA and be interested in boxing?
Nothing.
Production in boxing is not like it is in basketball and in football. This is a game of two combatants, Charlton, in boxing.
Yeah.
And if there's nothing there for as a household name of people that you don't know, you're not always going to tune it in. And HBO has been carrying boxing for decades, Charlton. ESPN has been carrying boxing for decades.
Yeah. No, I think they're doing the right thing, stepping up. It's still a great sport. It gets a lot of people out of the street. So we talked about what's happening in Washington, D.C. For people that say that sports and politics don't mix, that means you're intellectually vapid. If you're intelligent, everything mixes, Big C. That's what smart people do. They read. So we encourage people, keep reading. Don't tell people just watch football and basketball and don't read. I think that's anathema to education. Big C, what's up? Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He would always say, Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what's going on in your sports universe?
Well, Charlton, like we said, you know, we're looking at the Rams and the Vikings tonight. It's going to be interesting. We talked about your cousin a lot earlier in the show. The Rams are without their two starting cornerbacks tonight in this game. Think about that. Peters is out and Talib is out. And if your cousin can't get a win tonight, Charlton, I wonder what the Phillies and the media will be saying about it tomorrow.
You're going to start making people think that Kirk Cousins has a black dad or something because you keep saying we're cousins. Hey, but all fair and love and war, all life came from the African continent, Big C. And you can also follow every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say, everybody knows there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911 because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.